Give me Genesis!
Hello, welcome back to Star Trek Sodium. Having finished facts for every episode of Star Trek Next Generation Series 3, it's time to look at the third film of the Star Trek movie series. So here's some facts all about Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, that you didn't even know. Supposedly, tensions mounted on set when a clash of cultures occurred between the Captain Kirk actor and the Sulu actor. George Takei had suggested over the succulent chicken at lunchtime that chickens have noses, while Shatner rudely retorted that of course chickens don't have noses. Of course, in Asia, it's widely considered canon that chickens are nosed creatures, the belief held by Asians going back through centuries of tradition. But this tradition was stamped on crudely by Shatner, who laughed at the idea and corrected George Takei in front of everyone else in the canteen. Shatner would elaborate that birds have built-in nostrils in their beaks, which enraged the Asian actor even further, causing them not to speak for minutes on end.
I here am new, but you are known, being McCoy from Enterprise.
Actress Kirstie Alley was invited back to her popular role as Mr. Saavik for Star Trek 3, but turned down the role, possibly due to the way that she was treated by the religious zealots in her family following her part in Star Trek 2. The mocking cousins and uncles on the family ranch had supposedly taken offence at her playing such a devilish-looking role. The pointed ears, the red uniform, and the lack of humanity had put the actress to shame and would alienate her for years from certain family members. Instead, she would choose to play the unsure and promiscuous bar lady in Cheers, which brought with it real prestige. Originally, Leonard Nimoy refused to come back to Star Trek after his character was tragically killed at the end of the previous film. But Gene Roddenberry was asked to personally persuade the actor to return. Negotiations between Nimoy and Roddenberry took time, and only came to a head once one crucial element of the deal had been agreed: that Nimoy would only return if he could play the role of Spock again, the soapy role he made famous for 18 years and he would continue to portray into the future. In recruiting the Star Trek actors for their return to the movie franchise, the casting team were confronted with a real issue when trying to locate the Chekhov actor. Not realizing that he wasn't Russian in real life, the casting team contacted acting management companies and crucial talent agencies in Russia to help them find him, but in the end they would reportedly locate Walter Koenig in America of all places. He had taken up a part-time position in a spirit hazing company, kind of like an early version of Ghostbusters or those crazy mediums. As soon as he was located, he was only too happy to leave his silly job as a spirit hazer and come running back to the Enterprise. A recently uncovered early draft of the script for The Search for Spock uncovered some crucial plot differences. The plot reportedly has Spock not putting the brain of his mind into Dr. McCoy, but instead into that of a whale, The crew would then travel back to the 20th century to recover the whale, and therefore the mind of Spock to put back into his body. This story was seen as ridiculous and too fantastical, and so the concept was shelved in favour of revisiting the Genesis planet. Unfortunately though, the script of this has since become lost again. The actor who played one of the incarnations of young Spock, Shelving Tucker, is probably now more recognised for his post-Star Trek exploits. He would go on to star as one of the children in Home Alone and as one of Vin Diesel's children in Fast and Furious 10. This child actor may not be instantly recognisable for his Hensing Star Trek role. We can surely all agree that Shelving Tucker has made his mark on the industry as a child actor legend alongside the greats like Corey Feldman and Warwick Davis. When casting for the pivotal role of Commander Cruge, one name came immediately to mind to writer Harve Bennett. Having just enjoyed seeing the following year's release of Back to the Future, Harve reportedly fell in love with Christopher Lloyd's raspy and strained voice. At first, Christopher Lloyd wasn't interested in the Search for Spock, as he thought the Klingons looked ridiculous in the motion picture. But when he was told that Commander Cruge would have a pet creature that looked a little like an alligator, the actor jumped at the chance. Alligators had been his favourite beast ever since he possibly grew up at his parents' alligator breeding centre in Alabama. Those of you with eagle eyes would note that singing sensation Nichelle Nichols doesn't so much as sing a single song in the Search for Spock. Rumour has it that she approached director Leonard Nimoy with her soapy request to deliver an entertaining song to the viewing public, but Leonard made the right call on turning her down, saying that a story about misery, despair, and the loss of a son and the destruction of the Enterprise ship shouldn't have a jaunty song alongside it, as the change of tone would confuse the watching audience. Luckily, William Shatner was listening in and made note that if he ever directed a Star Trek film in turn, he would do his best to shoehorn in Uhura's beautiful singing voice wherever he could, whether appropriate or not. Star Trek III features Star Trek debut of the Klingon Bird of Prey ship, which has gone on to prove popular and long-lasting in the futuristic world of Star Trek. Possibly first seen in Return of the Jedi, there were no plans to use the Bird of Prey again in Star Wars, and so it was appropriated by Paramount via an alleged family relationship between Harve Bennett and George Lucas. Allegations report that they shared a mutual cousin, which led to them meeting at some wedding or other and having a handshake agreement about the transferal of the Bird of Prey from Star Wars to Star Trek. At the time of filming Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, George Takei was contracted to appear in a couple of Hensing commercials for Drompton's Star Yogurt, a delicious new range of tasty yogurts made in the backwoods hills of Virginia. Those of you with eagle eyes would notice that during the disfigurement scene, Sulu is noticeable by his absence. That's because he was 2,500 miles away at the time, quickly being recorded guzzling away at the Star Yogurt like a ravenous dairy addict. The Search for Spock was a direct sequel to The Wrath of Khan, which was surprisingly the first time ever in the series of Star Trek films that one movie had continued from one to another. A few clips were shown of Star Trek II in The Search for Spock, but you can look as thoroughly as you like. You won't see a single clip showing the Khan character at all. That's because Ricardo Montalban's manager, Zephram Daystrom, possibly would only grant them use of Khan's face for the tidy sum of $1,000 million, a number which the bean counters at Paramount immediately turned down. Rumour has it that when Gene Roddenberry first heard that the plan was to destroy the Starship Enterprise, he shed a tear or two before requesting if he could keep the smashed-up hulk of the 20-metre model of the Enterprise that would be pummeled to bits. Out of respect, Paramount elders agreed to this soapy plan, and so the 4-ton Enterprise was lifted by crane and sumo truck to safely get it to the Roddenberry Ranch up in the Hollywood Hills. It's emotional requests like this that possibly got Gene his nickname in the 1980s, Cry Bob. Another thing that he requested was that the Enterprise come back for the 4th movie, like Spock did for this one, possibly in a film that they could call The Search for Enterprise. Thanks ever so much for listening to my fascinating facts all about the 3rd Star Trek movie, The Search for Spock. I hope you enjoyed these facts and that you learned a lot more about Star Trek than you ever did before listening to this. Hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed those facts, and comment some facts underneath, or let me know what you think about the facts, because they really are eye-opening. I'll see you next time. Come back next week for some more Star Trek facts. Ta-ta!